Hi guys! I'm so excited to be back with you guys today for the third cake to our holiday cake series here on Theo's Treats. Today it is especially magical because it is snowing out and it's so beautiful. So we are going to be making a salted caramel gingerbread layer cake with cream cheese frosting. Does that not sound magical? Oh my God, I'm so excited. And I feel like this flavor is a more traditional holiday flavor, but we are still amping it up by adding salted caramel and little caramel bits. So I really think this one will be a crowd pleaser for everyone during this holiday season. All right, so let's get started. So for today's cake, we will need 3 cups of all-purpose flour plus 3 tablespoons, and you want to make sure to sift this. 1 cup of packed brown sugar, 1 cup of molasses, 1 cup of unsalted butter, 1.5 teaspoons of salt, 1 teaspoon of baking powder, as well as 1 teaspoon of baking soda, 2 teaspoons of cinnamon, as well as 2 teaspoons of ground ginger, 2 eggs at room temperature, 1.25 cups of buttermilk, once again at room temperature. So for the cake batter, we'll be starting off with our butter that we're gonna add to our stand mixer. We're going in with our brown sugar. So the goal here is to cream both of these ingredients really well. We want to get a really nice fluffy mixture. We're going to work it up to medium high and we're going to let that go for like 2 to 3 minutes. So as you see that the butter and sugar are coming together, you can stop your stand mixer maybe like a minute and a half in, and just use a spatula to scrape down the sides because we really want to make sure that everything is getting well incorporated. All right, so once you're happy with your butter and sugar mixture, you're gonna wanna add in your 2 eggs, and you're gonna wanna add them while the mixer is running on low, and same thing with the 1 cup of molasses. Initially, it might look curdled. You just wanna keep it running on low until you see that the mixture comes together. So once again, now that my eggs and molasses are in and that they've been mixing on low for a few minutes, I just want to scrape everything down. I'm going back in on low again for another few minutes in order to get a really nice and smooth mixture. All right, so my mixture is looking awesome. So we're gonna get ready with our dry ingredients. So in my bowl here, I have the all-purpose flour that has been sifted. I'm going to add our spices to this, as well as our baking soda and baking powder. And lastly, our salt. You really want to make sure that everything is evenly mixed through. Once your dry ingredients are all nicely whisked up, we are basically at the last step of our cake batter. So all we're going to do is alternate between the dry ingredients and the buttermilk. Usually I like to start and finish with the flour. So I usually do 3 separate additions of flour and 2 additions of buttermilk. So I'll go ahead and do that right away. All right, so when the last addition of flour goes in, I pretty much stop the stand mixer right away because one important thing to remember is that overmixing your cake batter will lead to really dense cake, and we want a nicer, fluffier, moister cake. So you really want to stop it sooner rather than later, and then do the rest of the folding by hand. So I have 4 6-inch cake pans right here. If you are using 8-inch cake pans, then you'll only need 3 of them. And I've lined them with parchment paper as I usually do. So I'm just gonna get my batter into these cake pans and into the oven. They should bake at 350 for about 25 to 30 minutes. Make sure to check them with a toothpick to make sure they're perfectly cooked. You want your toothpick to come out mostly clean with a few little moist crumbs on there. All right, so my cakes have now come out of the oven. So while those are cooling off, I thought we can start our cream cheese buttercream. So for the cream cheese buttercream, you'll need 3/4 of a cup of unsalted butter, and you will also need an 8-ounce block of cream cheese. So to begin, we will go in with the butter. And we want to cream that on its own just to get it nice and fluffy for like a good 3 minutes on medium high. Once your butter is nice and whipped up, you want to go ahead and add your cream cheese. We're just going to get this mixing again. We want to make sure that the butter and cream cheese really come together. So once again, I would go around medium to medium high for a good 3 to 4 minutes. For this cream cheese buttercream, we will also be needing about 3 to 4 cups of powdered sugar. So I'm going to start slowly incorporating it with a spoon. Now that all my powdered sugar has been added, I'm just gonna add a splash of vanilla. And that's it, guys. It's a really, really simple frosting. So I'm just gonna let this go on medium to medium high for another like 3-4 minutes for it to get nice and fluffy. And that's it. That's all we need to do. So as you can see, I've got my cake layers here. All I've done was trim them so that they are even. And then I put them in the freezer just to get them nice and solid. This way it's just easier for us to stack the whole cake. And I have my cream cheese buttercream that I put in a picnic bag. I also pulled out some of my homemade salted caramel. You guys can make your own salted caramel or you can buy from the store, that's fine. I just really like the addition of saltiness in the cake. I find it so, so good. And I also have here some score bits. So these can be purchased at the store. These are just gonna add a bit of a crunch to the cake as well. So let's go ahead and assemble. So I'm just gonna start with a bit of buttercream on the base. I'm just gonna go ahead with my first layer of cake and pop that on right here. You wanna push down to make sure it's evenly secured and that it's flat. I'm gonna go ahead with a bit more buttercream. So I just start with a bit of a base to cover the cake layer. And then I'm gonna come back with my buttercream and I'm gonna pipe a rim all around the edges, just like so. Once the rim is done, I'm gonna fill it with salted caramel. So I like to have a nice even layer of salted caramel. You could just drizzle a bit on, but I feel like it gets lost. You don't even notice it really. So by actually putting a thin layer across the whole cake, I find that that's how you get the best salted caramel flavor. So once the salted caramel is on, I'm gonna come in with a bit of my score bits. So it's basically like a toffee. And then last but not least, I want to go in with a bit of fleur de sel. So some finishing salt just to go once again and accentuate that saltiness because salty and sweet is the best combo. So now that that's done, we're just going to keep going with all our layers until we use them all up. So when you're pleased with that, you just want to cover the whole thing in buttercream. So once you've covered your whole thing in buttercream, you want to go in with your flat-edged cake scraper and just go ahead and remove any excess buttercream. Then you just want to pop this in the fridge for maybe like 5 to 10 minutes until the crumb coat gets nice and hard. Alright, so now that the cake has chilled, I'm just going to go in with a paring knife in order to go get those sharp edges. So at this point, we're going back in with the full other coat of buttercream. This will be our final coat, so we will want to be a bit more careful with it in making it look as perfect as possible. So like before, once you've covered your whole cake in the second coat of buttercream, you want to go back in with your cake scraper. This time being careful not to remove it all because you do want there to be buttercream left on your cake. Alright, so when you're happy with your final buttercream coating, this cake is going back in the fridge for about 10 to 15 minutes. We really want to make sure that that buttercream is nice and hard before going in with our final touches. So today I've decided to go with a more classy look, if you will. So I went with some dark green and some dark red. And I want to make my cake look a bit more abstract. So I'm just going to add a pop of color to the bottom. And then on the top, we'll go in with a drip. So I usually like taking my offset spatula. And I'm just going to go get a bit of color. You really don't need much. A little goes a long way. And then you just want to add some little touches of color in and around the base. And I kind of like for there to be texture, so you don't have to worry too much about trying to get it all the same level. I like the fact that it's not all even. Once you're pleased with the green, you're gonna wanna go in with the red, and you could kind of go back and forth between the two colors until you get a result that you're happy with. All right, guys, so I'm really happy with the turnout on this abstract cake. The next step is the drip. So what we're gonna do now is pop the cake in the freezer for about 15 minutes, because in order for the drip to set rather than falling all the way down, we need our cake to be as cold as possible. So this baby is going in the freezer for about 15 minutes, and I'll check back with you guys in no time. So this drip is a super simple ganache. All it is half a cup of white chocolate to 3 tablespoons of heavy cream that I've melted together. I did add some white food coloring in order to get a nice white color. And now that it's cool to room temperature, we're ready to apply it onto the cake. So you just want to bring a spoonful on top of the cake, a spoonful at a time, and then work it towards the edge where you want it to fall. And then just kind of naturally let it fall off the side of the cake. So you want to pop this in the freezer once the drip has applied in order for it to set once more. All right, guys, so the cake just came out of the freezer, so now the drip is nice and set. So we'll be able to put our final little rosettes on top. So I just kind of put in a piping bag the leftover green and red I had and the leftover white buttercream I had. And now I'm just gonna come and just try to make cute little rosettes. The first ones are probably gonna be more white than anything. Just like so. Just to give it like a finishing touch. And you wanna go all around the cake with this. Hopefully we'll have enough buttercream. Perfect, look at that. I thought it would be cute to add a bit of gold leaf as well, just to make this a very, classy and elegant cake. So with clean fingers, you can go ahead and just put some gold leaf. And you know what? I actually use this time to cover up any imperfections. All right, guys, so there you have it, my gingerbread salted caramel layer cake with cream cheese frosting. I really hope you enjoyed this video, and I really hope it inspires you to, bake a gingerbread cake with your family this holiday season. If ever you have any suggestions for upcoming videos you would like to see, please don't hesitate in commenting them below. Otherwise, I'll see you guys soon. Bye. All right, guys, so I sliced into the cake, and look at the inside of this one. You see the beautiful gingerbread layers, the salted caramel, the toffee bits. Oh, I can't wait to taste it.